Let's now go to former Labor Senator and renowned polling analyst John Black, who joins us live from Brisbane. Good to talk to you again, John. We've talked a lot about the polls in the last few weeks. There was a lot of good news there for the coalition, bad news for Labor. Look, most of this stuff is happening within the margin of error now. We're talking about 51-49 and 50-50 and the like. But there's no doubt right across the polls, Labor has recovered to a degree. Is that the benefit of their budget?
There is no doubt that there's been a consistent recovery in the Labor vote over the last 6 weeks. And it's reflected also in the reduction in the net satisfaction negative scores for Albanese and a decline for Peter Dutton. So they've all moved in harmony. When I had a look at all of the polls, I saw that they were all within a standard error of each other. So they were all roughly showing a swing of about 2% against the government after preferences and before preferences. So that was consistent. The two-party preferred votes, 50-50, like you said, which means basically either side can win it. A couple of the polls gave estimates of seats that are likely to be won. One had Labor well in front, but that poll cut off before the opposition leader's response to the budget. So I'm not sure how valid that is. And the other one was much closer. So, look, it's on for young and old, Chris, as you say. The consistent factor behind the resurgence of votes for governments in a number of countries which are being targeted by Donald Trump is clear there for all of us. Basically, whether it's Canada or France or the UK or the Ukraine or even now Australia, if you've been a target of Trump, the government support increases. That's basically happened right across the board.
I think that's a very astute observation. I think Trump is, I know from the polling I've heard about, internal polling, that Trump is toxic with swinging voters in this country. So if Trump has a swing at you, you're likely to rise in the public esteem. The other factor I wanted to ask about is you go back to the reason Labor delayed the poll announcement, delayed the election, was the Queensland tropical cyclone that, of course, turned into a tropical low. But Anthony Albanese was quick to get up there, stand alongside the Premier, do all that stuff. We usually see that sort of leadership in a crisis reflect well on politicians. Do you think that helped Albanese as well?
Look, I think it did. I think it probably helped the Queensland Premier a bit more because he was here for the long haul and was quite professional in his explanations of what was going on and his warnings for the public. So I think he did a little bit better. When that became apparent, we saw the Prime Minister arrive and stand shoulder to shoulder. So, but look, it's good to see everybody taking an interest at the top of the political tree. But yes, that would have helped a little because the Commonwealth does come to the aid of people in distress like this with more resources than the state government can bring to bear. And heaven only knows, Chris, Queensland needs it. They need it now as well.
Now, when we talk about the Trump factor and the way that can be a positive for Albanese, and it's certainly being used by Labor as an attack against Peter Dutton. They're trying to smear him with Trumpian policies. Then surely Clive Palmer doesn't help. He's out there with the trumpet of patriots. Everyone knows he's on the right of centre. He runs his own race, but he's on the right of centre. Does just having that stuff out there in the advertising all the time do damage to the right of centre brand?
Look, I'm not sure that it does. I think Clive would be very happy to be seen as the lightning rod for this sort of mood. I don't think it necessarily reflects on Dutton. I think Peter Dutton needed to be a bit clearer with what his alternatives were for the Labor government budget, which was a very unpopular budget, and this was revealed quite clearly in the news poll figures and some of the other polls that were taken over the weekend. So they need to get out there and explain to the voters why their offerings are better, and they need to do it with details. And they need to realise, and the National Party in Queensland, or the old National Party in Queensland, needs to realise that Donald Trump and Elon Musk are political kryptonite right now for Australia.